All right, beautiful people, welcome. We were saying a little bit of a greeting before we turned on the recording, and we've got a gorgeous group gathering from around the world. We have an incredible call here today, so welcome to our live interview with David Lyon, our
What's
special
going on?
guest for today. Welcome, David. We're talking today about soul medicine. Discover the 3 simple steps that permanently dissolve pain in one sitting. And it's very exciting. So I mentioned, for those of you who saw the message that I sent out, I had a call from David just last week.
That's great.
And yeah, so I know David, just a quick orientation. Um, I know David, I don't know how many, it's been a number of years. We met through our mutual friend, Orrin Harris. And when I hosted On God's Payroll, the summit last year, David was one of the amazing leaders that I interviewed. And everybody loved that interview on joyful prosperity. And so we got to interact then, had a fantastic time, and stayed connected and swapped some messages over the course of the year. And then we had this conversation last week, and I knew I had to pass it on. So I wanted to share what David shared with me. So, because for those that it's meant for, it's pretty miraculous. So welcome, welcome. Just housekeeping, making sure that you are, you're not going to be disturbed. I like to think of this space when we gather as a date with your soul. Those who have been in my world for a while know that that's what I say. You come into a space like this, the frequency is very high, the level of coherence is very high. My intention, and I know David well enough to know, our shared intention is that you are connected, you're flowing your gifts, you're in service, and this is a space in which your soul can talk to you. So whether it's literally something we say, or whether it's that you're in this space and you receive what you're meant to receive, that's what this space is for. So this is a space dedicated to the soul. So hence the conversation about soul medicine. So let me give a few words about David in addition to what I've said already. He is a mystic, a hypnotist, a magician, literally street magician. Not just on the street, magician in lots of places. Spiritual mentor. He's really a magical being. He introduced himself earlier saying that he feels magical in this moment, because that seems to be, it's like David Magical Lion is his middle name. So let me give you a little bit of his formal bio, and then you're going to meet him more personally. He has over 13 years experience helping others overcome doubt, their brightest shine, and develop unshakable confidence in their intuitive gifts. In 2012, a spiritual awakening led him to remembering his unique gifts as a channel and clairvoyant, which he uses to help people to reconnect with their essence, heal their deepest wounds, and better align their purpose with their prosperity. His highest passion is to support soul-driven leaders, influencers, healers, and artists who are committed to mastering their unique flow and becoming their highest selves. He's internationally recognized for the life-changing transformation and breakthroughs that his clients consistently experience, empowering them to deepen and enrich their connection with the magic within their heart. So, David, welcome. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for saying yes to this. And what's up to everyone who's in the room?
Yeah. Yeah, we got a beautiful group as always. So guys, here's what we're gonna do. Dave and I are gonna have a little bit of a conversation about the call he made to me. And we'll get into a little bit of back and forth about that because I love to ask questions. If any of you know me, I love to ask questions. I'm curious. So we're going to go into David's journey with what we're here to talk about today: soul medicine and permanent healing in a very rapid way. And then we're going to talk about the journey of soul medicine, and there will be a chance for Q&A towards the end. So if you have questions that come up along the way, you can pop them in the chat. We'll get to them, and let's get going. So, David, Start
Yeah,
us off. Start us off. What is soul medicine? Where did this start?
good question. Um, so in essence, what soul medicine is about, it's a method of receiving your own soul's medicine. That's why it's called soul medicine. And where it started was, so just to give you some backstory, I had absolutely no intention of becoming a healer or dealing with people's problems or anything like that. At the time, I was on the path of becoming a celebrity magician and wanting to be on TV and doing all that kind of stuff, and very much in my ego back in those days. And I had met a psychic. It was my first psychic back when I didn't believe in psychics. And I was ready to kind of debunk her. I was ready to like, all right, let's see what she got. And the first sentence out of her mouth, it was someone who was introduced to me from a friend. The first sentence out of her mouth was, "Your mom was abandoned by her birth parents and adopted by a Jewish family, and your dad left your life when you were 3 years old." And I was just like, whoa. I'm like, you don't look at a black guy and go, you're Jewish. That's not a cold read. Like, so right away I was just like captivated. I'm like, okay, she's something else. And during that hour talk, one of the things that she told me, she said something along the lines of, you're going to be a very masterful healer. And I remember when she said that, I remember the thought in my mind was, I got enough of my own problems to deal with. I don't know about that one. And literally the next day, I had come home to my mom's house and it was in the mid-afternoon and I was chilling in my brother's room or in the basement and I was starting to fall asleep on the couch. And as I was falling asleep, these bright blue letters just popped into my mind and it just said soul medicine. And all of a sudden, it's just like I woke up and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I know that's what I'm meant to do. And it's like I just had this strong feeling. And then shortly after, I happened to pick up this book I was reading called The Law of One, and it's like a 5 book series of this channeled entity known as Ra. And the page I happened to open up to spoke to, it's like a question and answer format book, and the questioner was asking Ra, he goes, how do you permanently get rid of your karma? And Ra responded, he's like, karma, also known as emotional baggage, can be permanently alleviated using 3 simple steps. And he said, understand, accept, forgive. And as soon as I read that, something about that message clicked with all the hypnosis knowledge I already had and hypnotherapy knowledge. And in that instant, soul medicine was born. It was just like, I get it. And right from the very beginning, it just worked. It wasn't like a method that I had to refine over time and practice and perfect. It was just this very simple method that I started to bring people through. Because as a hypnotist, I was doing street hypnosis and I was on TV and doing things. So people would ask me every now and then, like, can you help me with this problem or that problem? And I used to say no. I'm like, I don't do that stuff. And even though I was studying it, I just didn't do it. And so I started to reach out to people and make posts and say like, hey, this soul medicine thing came to me. I want to start offering it to people. And so I started to get all kinds of cases. I had people with like severe sexual abuse, um, uh, deep abandonment wounds, resentment. I've even had certain people with certain so-called physical diseases that were incurable. And with every single person from the first time, the method just worked. I'd lead them into a very light state of hypnosis, and I had a process for, bringing them through soul medicine. And after about an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, their issue was gone. And when I say the word permanent, what I mean by permanent is you cannot re-trigger them if you tried, because I'm very thorough when I do my things. I believe in testing my work. And so for me, it's not good enough that the person just says, oh yeah, I feel lighter and I feel clearer. I'm going to try and re-trigger you. I'm like, like, all right, well, what about this? And what about that? You try and re-trigger yourself, and no matter what I would do, they would either feel neutral about it, they would laugh, or it's like what I was saying just didn't make sense to them. It's like they're trying, and sometimes people are a little insecure about trying because they just finally feel better from something they've been carrying for decades. And they're like, I don't know if I want to try. I'm like, no, when you go home, you're going to end up trying anyway. So do it while you're in a safe space. And so when they would actually let themselves go, it kind of gave that extra convincer of like, oh, wow, this is actually gone. And what I noticed is that layers didn't show up like a few days or a week later or months later. There was no like, oh, now there's another layer to heal. Because what I discovered is that the truth about layers is that when another layer appears, it doesn't mean that healing takes time. Another layer appearing means that you're getting an echo of the same original wound that was not resolved at the root in the first place. And so you're just seeing another branch. That's actually what's happening with layers. So soul medicine allowed me to give people permanent results, and also take care of the integration during the session, which is a big important part. You know, a lot of people after a session, like, hey, go integrate and do this and that to integrate, but people struggle with that, you know? And so this allowed me through hypnosis, through the subconscious, to help them integrate in the session so they could just go and enjoy their life afterwards. And yeah, and that's the essence of where soul medicine has come from. I've used it for things such as money blocks, for creative blocks. Like I said, I had a number of people come to me with physical diseases. I only talk about one of them because you have to understand I did this, this was 13 years ago. And so 13 years ago, I wasn't thinking about collecting testimonials or building a business. I was just experimenting. And so I only really talk about the cases where I did go and get a testimonial. And so, you know, one of them was someone who had gallstones disease. And this guy posted on Facebook saying he has gallstones and he doesn't know what to do. He's in extreme pain. He's going to have massive surgery and go on drugs. And he doesn't want to do that. Can anyone help? And I remember I sent him a message and I was like, well, I'm a spiritual healer and a hypnotist. I think I could help. And he's like, I don't believe in any of those things, but sure, why not? And same thing, he came in. I discovered that the emotional root cause of his disease was this deep unresolved resentment. So we cleared the resentment. He didn't expect that we'd be going in that direction, but we cleared the resentment. He felt better and he was like, cool, thanks. You know, and we didn't think anything of it. He had a doctor's appointment. I don't know if it was the next day or a few days later, but when he went back, the doctors told him that he had a spontaneous recovery and they couldn't explain it. And it blew his mind. So he sent me a whole text and stuff like that. So it's really an incredibly potent method, and it's simple is the most important part. So I'll leave it at there for now since I've been talking a lot, but that's the essence of soul medicine.
Amazing. And you actually, the potency of it was such because you were sharing with me, and I feel like this is an important part of your story. You actually didn't make it wildly available at first.
Yeah.
And part of it was, that seemed like a wild claim. Tell us a little bit about like kind of how you introduced it to others because appreciate that. I appreciate that what you're saying about like, you're going to try to make sure it's solid. You're going to try to break it or
Yep.
ensure that it's actually as you were experimenting making sure it had no holes. So tell us about the process of making it available in the world.
Yeah, so I did it for about 8 years before I shared it with anyone in terms of like teaching them how to do it. So I did it for 8 years, and then after 8 years, I just received this very clear calling of turn this into a training and pay forward these blessings. I'm like, great. So I took the time, I put together an online training course, I recorded it, and put it up on my website. And for whatever reason, I just didn't put any energy into promoting it. That's just not, I don't know if it was a maturity thing or just where I was at in life, but I didn't put much energy into promoting it. I just let whoever happened to find it, because I have a decent sized social media. And so whoever happened to go on my website and find it, those were the people who bought it, and I had doctors and therapists and hypnotherapists who took the course and who loved it. And I kind of just, not that I forgot about it, but I just left it there and I moved on to other things, because I had other inspirations. And then at some point, more recently, I would say about a year, maybe 2 years ago, I started to feel the call again towards like putting soul medicine out there. But I was afraid because I had insecurities come up because I didn't want to claim that I had a one session permanent solution. It just, for different reasons. One, I just didn't want to deal with the pushback. It's played on my insecurities. And two, it's like I just had this insecurity about putting that thought in people's heads. And then, like, I liked when people didn't expect anything and they came to me, and in one session it was gone, and it's just like, surprise, you know? And, so I was kind of navigating like what to do with that. And so I sat on it for like a good year, year and a half, not really doing much about it until two things happened. So recently, this past, I believe it was October or so, um, I have a friend named Maria. She's one of the leaders inside the community now. Um, she kept telling me that she has this calling to help others, but she had zero coaching experience, zero hypnosis experience, zero healing experience. She was a fitness trainer. And so she knew nothing about holding space or any of that stuff. She just knows she wants to help others. And she told me she was about to take this hypnotherapy training because she was interested by hypnosis. And she's like, I have this training I want to take. It's by this guy Paul McKenna, but it's like $5,000. Thinking about putting on my credit card. I'm like, Paul McKenna is amazing. I love him, and let me give you this. I've known you for many years. I know you're actually going to appreciate it. Let me give this to you. And so I gave her soul medicine, and she spent 2 hours going through the training. It's only a 2 hour training. You literally learn everything in 2 hours. So she spent 2 hours going through the training. And within 2 weeks, she had her first five clients. And all five clients gave the same soul medicine results of like, oh my God, decades of trauma are gone. I, and it's not only just that the trauma was gone, it's they kept following up with her, telling her like sometimes like week after week being like, oh, now this happened, now this happened, now this happened. It's because that thing was finally gone. Their soul is just manifesting in so many magical ways in their life. And so when I saw her testimonials and how much it just changed her life, it just really impacted me because I'm like, I knew that this was good for beginners, but she was a complete beginner. That was as beginner as it gets. And so that lit a fire in me. I'm like, okay, I need to get this out there. And so I started to do some deeper research. And I ended up discovering, because whenever I would mention to some of my healer friends that I had this one session solution, they would push back on me. They'd be like, come on, bro, healing has layers and you know this and you know that. And then every time I would break it down to them, they'd be like, oh, yeah, actually, that makes sense. But I just, I was insecure around the pushback. And then I did some research. I ended up finding through ChatGPT that Sigmund Freud, the father of psychotherapy, actually used to do hypnosis once upon a time. And not a lot of people know this. And there's documented evidence. He had a mentor named James something or other, and he used to do hypnosis, but eventually he abandoned it because it worked too fast. And so he abandoned it for talk therapy. And that way you could see his clients week after week. And I guess I'm imagining there's probably business and economic reasons involved. And so he abandoned it so he could work with people longer. And I was like, what? Like it made me mad when I read that. And then I kept reading, and I discovered that in World War I and World War II, they used to use methods on the vets to help them with their severe PTSD. And same thing, they were providing them with one session solutions. Again, this is all documented and cited. And then they I don't know if they abandoned it or they just stopped talking about it, but basically that's when the pharmaceutical industry started coming on the rise, and they wanted to give people antidepressants. And so I read this, and it just lit a fire under my ass. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, so not only is it me that's been getting these results for 13 years, not only is it my students, but this has been known about for over a century, but it's been suppressed. Like, and I'm not saying they were doing the exact same method I was doing, but they know that this is possible. And so once I read that, I was just like, okay, it almost felt like it gave me a backbone. And I was like, I'm doing everything to get this out into the world. And I made it my mission to really help raise the standard of excellence in the healing industry so that our clients can get the help they need the first time, because I think they deserve that.
That's a wow. Hey, I mean, I think anybody on a call like this is aware that lots has been suppressed
Yeah.
over the decades, millennia, centuries, and millennia. Like we have a history of people not getting the full story or getting the maximum benefit of something that could have been easier or more effective.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you. So I mean, that really touched me when you shared with me when we spoke about it last week, that like, wow, yes, there has been a lot suppressed. And so what's the distinction? Because we do have, I'm sure, live and people who will catch this later on the recording, masterful healers
Yep.
who, just like you said, are like, yeah, but it does sound like a really bold claim. And I appreciate your, sort of hanging back on it, or humility around it, or whatever you want to call it. You didn't use the word humility, but just, like
Insecurity.
discomfort,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
insecurity with making that claim. What is different about this? Because let's go back to
Yeah.
the three steps, because
Yeah.
you outlined what came through the law of one, which is super interesting. That was actually the spark of remembrance, and I've had various classic works like that spark a remembrance. It's almost like an activation, like it was in your DNA, and then you read the right thing at the right time, and then boom, it kind of came online. This sort of
Yes.
ancient history, ancient wisdom, things that we know we have access to that haven't been in our conscious awareness for some time. So lifetimes, who knows how many lifetimes. So
Yep.
take us through the three steps, and what
Yeah.
is it that's different about this? Because masterful healers are masterful healers. So what's the piece that
Yep.
makes us go, oh,
So there's
okay,
yeah, there's a few things.
yeah,
So one is that it's actually a simple step-by-step system. Like usually, and even in my own world, like as we develop our mastery and our gifts, it's unique to us. There's an artist way that we approach it. There's a way, it's not necessarily a system that we could say like, here, follow these steps. So one is that it is a system. Um, that's not a rigid system, but it's one that works with your unique essence. And two is it's really the forgiveness process. So a lot, many people know that forgiveness is important, but few people know how to arrive at a place where they embody forgiveness, where they become forgiveness. And for me, I define forgiveness as the return to innocence, right? It's the return to your essence. It's giving forth that which you no longer wish to carry. And so this is the part that most people struggle with. They understand that forgiveness is important, but forgiving themselves, almost, it's kind of like a brain tickler. They're like, I don't know how to arrive at that where I'm wholeheartedly feeling it. So this process allows you to wholeheartedly experience forgiveness, which is that return to innocence. And then in so doing, as a side effect, you forgive others. And well, in truth, there's nothing to forgive once you return to your innocence, because that you never held a grudge to begin with, right? So it's you automatically see the innocence in others, and you retrieve the gifts of that moment. So just a brief tangent here. For example, when I did this process on myself, I actually get to use this myself. That's one of the things that I like, because I've often found it challenging mm, to find other healers who can properly support me in the way that it's like, I wish someone could help me the way that I help others, is what I used to constantly say. And soul medicine is one of the first things that's actually able to do that for me. And so for me, it was I had abandonment wounds. My father left my life when I was young, like the psychic told me, like the psychic knew. And what I through going through this process, not only did I get to forgiveness where I released the pain, but I actually got to reclaim the gifts that I didn't know were present by seeing that, oh, wait, had my father stayed in my life, I wanted to be like him so much when I was a kid that I would have become a man like my father if he stayed. I would have become a womanizer. I might have cheated on women. I might have done things that I wouldn't be proud of. But because my father wasn't in my life, it connected me that much more strongly to the father. And when I realized that, it's like what was once a pain and resentment becomes, oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you for not being there. So it's not just I feel cleared, I feel grateful and happy that this happened. And that's a big part of what the soul medicine process allows for is the gratitude aspect. And and beyond that, so beyond the forgiveness piece, I actually like to apply um, neurological rewiring techniques because like I said, I'm very, very thorough. So once the forgiveness is there and the healing is there, I want to make sure that you're trigger proofed in the future. I want to make sure there's nothing that's going to happen that's going to bring this back. So I have a few very, very simple processes and techniques that take minutes to learn, sometimes even seconds, that literally one, nullify the neural pathway that you used to use to loop in the old problem. And once it's nullified, I show you how to rewire and create a new neural pathway so that on a neurological level, you will not get re-triggered. Even if something similar happens in the future, you won't respond in the old ways and your neurology won't even be wired that way anymore. So it's very thorough both on like the spiritual level and in terms of like the forgiveness and also on a very scientific neuroscience level of even the brain is rewired, the subconscious has been repatterned. So those are like the main unique elements. And again, it takes 2 hours to learn. This isn't a 200-hour training or a year-long training. It's a 2 hour training, so it's yeah.
Amazing. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. Um, Talk to us about experienced practitioners and people who are brand new, like you mentioned, Maria, the fitness
Yeah,
trainer.
yeah.
Um, Equally good for both groups. Obviously, both can do it. Obviously, yeah.
Equally, yeah, I would equally good. And what's been interesting for me to see as I've been in this round of really talking about soul medicine more is it's been majority brand new practitioners gravitating towards soul medicine. And I've noticed this because they don't have the ego or the resistance around, oh, that's not possible, my methods are better, or whatever it is going on in their mind. They don't have any unlearning to do. So they're actually just open and be like, okay, yeah, let me try this, and then what I've ended up seeing is like I made a post saying, I'm like, my brand new practitioners are getting better results than people with 10 years experience, and it's amazing. So there's no difference. Like I said, I have doctors, I have hypnotherapists, I have people who've studied things like RTT and um, CBT and all these other methods who've taken it and they're like, this is the most effective and simple method that I've learned. So I've seen no difference from brand new practitioners to experienced practitioners, other than their resistance to getting into it because of the claim. That's literally the only difference I've seen.
Brilliant. Amazing. I'm seeing a comment from Elizabeth saying your work sounds very similar to mine, and I'm working on building confidence to speak about it publicly more and more. It's lovely to hear you share your story. Thank you.
Please do.
Yeah,
Please do.
yeah,
Please share it. Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth. Um, um, Truly amazing. Are there any other stories of people who've had results from the process, having gone through the process that are top of mind to share? Any other cool unwindings?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, but what comes to mind is when I think of my practitioners, because it's like it's one thing for me to be able to get certain results. It's another thing to see other people do it who are brand new. And, so I have when people get soul medicine, they get access to the soul medicine community where they could ask questions and share their wins and stuff like that. And what I was seeing people share was blowing my mind. I made a video about this, but I had one of my new practitioners had so when you learn soul medicine, what I suggest they do is that they volunteer their services to 5 people in exchange for an honest testimonial. And that is the certification process. You have to get 5 testimonials with soul medicine results to be certified. You don't get certified just because you completed the program. To me, that doesn't make sense. I want to be able to vouch for you. And so in their volunteer sessions, so while they're still just kind of like, can I even do this? So in their volunteer sessions, I had one student who helped someone clear their eating disorder. in one session. They've gone to see many healers and ayahuasca and all kinds of things, and they're like, and they help them clear their eating disorder permanently in one session. And I had another student who helped someone clear the trauma of someone who had a hoarding habit, like they had a really bad hoarding problem to the point where their family was like, you really need to get help. And so they came to one of my students in their volunteer period. They did the session, and now the hoarding is cleared. So it's like it's things that I wouldn't have even thought to approach with it, or I didn't, those things haven't come my way, but it just never ceases to amaze me. I'm like, it doesn't matter what the thing is. If there's any reoccurring theme, any reoccurring circumstance that is unwanted in your life, there is a karma, there is an emotional root cause behind it. And that's what soul medicine helps with. Yeah.
Amazing. Any questions, anybody? I really invite you to, because it's profound. And even if you're like, yeah, but give us your objections.
Yeah.
Give
Yeah,
us
please.
your like, I don't know. Is this like, come on? I mean, anybody who knows me knows I'm not a hype person. I like don't really, I never hype. I tend to underplay, and it's actually an issue. I have to like, I have to improve on to not overplay things. So, but when I know someone personally, and I know their integrity level and the kinds of results that are happening, and also the why. Like as I said before, I'm really moved by the suppression piece that really lit a fire under you when you realized that this has to get into more people's hands because the world's melting. We need to make changes. It's time for us to make changes. But also, you said it earlier, and you said this to me last week as well, about the intention to raise the standards of excellence in this industry. We're not regulated.
Yep.
It's not a regulated industry. And
Yep.
most people I know have had some pretty challenging experiences with some practitioners, not being in high integrity, not actually delivering what was promised, not, like it's sad, but it's true. It happens, So I was really moved by the mission behind this that you're bringing. So if anybody has any, I wanted to say that, and if anybody has any doubts, any concerns, tell us so that
Yeah, please do share. Please do
David
share.
can tell us. So Jolene, hi Jolene. This is so powerful. It is similar frequency to Ho'oponopono. Spirit works with you to move energy much quicker for people to expand their consciousness. Thank you for sharing. Carolyn, how can we learn how to do soul medicine? Yes, we'll tell you that. Absolutely. There's and we'll have David speak more to that. I have a question. What if I personally have never been able to be in a hypnosis state?
Great question. Yes, thank you. So the beauty of this is you actually don't need hypnosis to accomplish it. Hypnosis is helpful. So I'll explain it this way. There are, in a sense, two, and I'm oversimplifying this, it's actually broader than this, but in the interest of oversimplifying, think of it as there are two hypnotic states. When I'm in entertainer mode and I need to make you hallucinate that I'm Justin Bieber and make you forget your name, I need you in a very deep hypnotic trance, and not everyone goes there right away. When you're doing hypnosis for change work and you're using the method I show you, it works 100% of the time. It always works. Why? Because you only need a light trance in order to facilitate lasting change. And you go into a light trance the moment you cut off one of your senses. So when you close your eyes and you cut off that sense and you begin to relax even just a little bit, you're going into a light kind of trance. That light trance is more than enough to facilitate the change. And of course, I show you how to bring it deeper if you want to. I find in my experience, it's usually men who require more of the hypnosis process to relax because they're not used to vulnerability and feeling their emotions. And so I'll use it more so with them. But 99% of the time with women, I don't really even need hypnosis because the moment that you're accessing the pain or the memory that you're wanting to heal, well, that pain and memory exists in your subconscious. So you're already in the hypnotic state in that sense. You're already in a light trance for me to do the work. So it doesn't matter if you weren't able to get hypnotized before because you were trying to do a past life session and you couldn't go there, or whatever the thing is. This always works. And again, you don't necessarily even need to use hypnosis to make it work. I actually literally led I tested something out the other day. I was at kind of like a coffee shop here in Colombia, and through conversation, someone, mentioned a trauma that they had, and I explored just through conversation, leading them through the hypnosis process. I didn't have them close their eyes. I didn't even tell them I was doing anything. I'm like, let me just try. And she felt the release, and I followed up with her probably like a week and a half later, and I was like asking her a million questions. I'm like, how have you felt with this? What have you noticed with that? And she's just like, no, I haven't had anything ever since then. So it actually showed me that it's even more simple than I originally thought. But I still, if it was a proper session, I would still prefer to be more thorough and do like the neurological rewiring and stuff like that too. But it just goes to show, it's like the medicine just works for itself. Your soul wants to receive that. Your soul wants to give it to you, I should say. And so, yeah, you don't have to have a worry about the hypnosis portion of it. It will work.
Amazing. Great. Any follow-ups on that, Belinda, let us know. But from Brittany, is it easy or straightforward to find the actual karmic root in this process? For example, under health issues, addiction, etc.
It's very easy. It's a little bit more advanced when it comes to physical ailments. And so um, I don't specifically teach it for physical diseases. Also, and I don't know if this is another insecurity or not, but it's like I just don't want to make claims like that of saying like, hey, I could cure physical diseases. I don't know how smart that is for me. I just tell people what I've experienced, and this is what I've learned through experience. Um, but it just, even for physical things, it just takes a little bit of empathy and intuition. So but I'll speak to the emotional aspect. Yes, it's very easy. So for example, if someone was coming to you and they're like, oh, like every time I try and just choose myself, my family just just makes me feel bad. They make me feel bad for trying to choose myself. And it's just like, oh, like what, and like what's the feeling there? Like what do you feel underneath that? Just like I feel guilty. There, that's the feeling we're working with. We're working with the guilt because that guilt that you feel in that memory of what just happened yesterday or whatever it was is not a new feeling. You've felt that before. And that feeling comes from a fear. And the only two fears that you're born with are the fear of falling and the fear of sudden loud noises. Those are the only two fears you're born with. Every other fear is learned. And so part of this process goes back to where you learned things, where you learned certain fears that where you could have learned things otherwise, and it alleviated at the root. And so it then liberates the rest of the branches. So it is incredibly easy. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, David. Great response. And Elizabeth has a rebuttal question, she's calling it. I
Yes.
work with a state of light hypnosis in my sessions as well, very similar to what you are describing. But it's still the case that every nervous system needs different pacing for arriving at a place of conscious choice or consent around their rewiring. And that often takes several sessions of trust building, having them trust both me and the process itself, with lots of micro state shift reprogramming moments leading up to the bigger state shift moments. So while there is definitely permanent change after each session, it still requires many sessions to really unwind the deeper karmic knots. So while they may have healed at a level, if they keep coming back, their evolution increases with each return session. So it makes sense to still work within a long-term healing container. Do you have return clients, or do you literally just give a single session and not work with people over the long term at all? Great question.
Great question. Yeah. So I'll speak to it. It's almost like a two-part question there. So the first part is it depends on what process you're using with the hypnosis, right? Because I always tell people going to see a hypnotist is like going to see a hairdresser. no two people use the tool of hypnosis the same way, right? It's not just about putting them into a hypnotic trance. It's what process are you bringing them through to arrive at whatever desired result is. So it depends what process you're using. I don't know what your process is. And, I could only just speak for my own and, or the one that's come to me. And part of the uniqueness of soul medicine is we identify the core feeling right away. Because what I've noticed with a lot of hypnotherapists and hypnotherapy trainings, including like when you go to HMI and even RTT, is a lot of hypnotherapy training work on the level of the mind. It works on the level of limiting beliefs. If the client comes with a problem and they'll work on that problem and find the subconscious belief underneath it. This isn't that. This is working on a heart level, so it's really a core level. And that's why it bypasses the layers and it goes to where things have originated from. And I have a process for that. So yeah, so that's my response to that. And please let me know if there's anything more you want me to speak into there or have more rebuttal. I'm more than happy to. And in terms of return clients, yeah, I have return clients all the time because people have many traumas, right? It's not one session and clears all your traumas. It's one session, one solution, and then you're like, whoa, next time I have a problem, I'm gonna go back to this guy, and next time I hear someone else has a problem, I'm gonna refer them to this guy. So I also do work with people on a long-term basis because healing isn't everything, right? I might be able to help you clear your trauma, but that doesn't, so let's say a musical artist has a trauma of ever setting foot on stage again because they had one bad performance. We can help them clear that trauma, and now they can finally even think and daydream about being on stage again, but they might not know the aligned actions to take in order to get on stage and find their flow. So so that's where mentorship absolutely has its place. And I just coupled the two of them together, the healing with the guidance. And so yeah, that's my response.
Great. And Elizabeth is saying, I work, the one who just asked the question, she says, I work in somatic, so it's body based, just not just mind. So
Oh, good. I want to speak to that real quick. Cool.
yeah,
So, and again, I don't know your process, so please know I'm just speaking to this generally from what I've seen and experienced. What I've noticed, so the most advanced of the therapies, like other than like there's like talk therapy, which works on the conscious level, and then the more advanced stuff will usually be like hypnotherapy and somatic therapy. The issue that I've found with somatic therapy is that it allows you to have a deep emotional release, which feels really good, and you feel like you're releasing the thing. But a deep emotional release doesn't equal a neurological rewiring. And so that's why after you empty the cup, the leak is still happening because in the neurology, in the subconscious, it has to keep recreating the thing. And then that's where another layer appears. And it's like, oh, let's deal with that layer. Oh, let's deal with that layer. So that's what I've noticed with somatic therapy and why it's like, not, it's not an illusion. That's the wrong word. I was going to say, like, it just feels really good when you could release the thing and empty your cup, but you don't want it to fill back up again. That's the whole point.
awesome. Thank you so much. We have some more questions and I want to get to those, but I also want to give a chance for you to speak to the practitioner training, which was one of the questions. So
Yeah,
why don't we share how people can learn to do soul medicine if they want to,
for sure.
if it feels aligned for them. And I'll give you a chance to do that, and then we'll come back and finish the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just really quickly, Lisa's going to have a link for you. I guess you could put it in the chat.
Okay.
And what the link is going to do is going to give you like a brief rundown of exactly why most healing is temporary and a little bit more detail onto the three steps of understand, accept, forgive. And then from there, if it resonates with you, you'll see the button where you can access the actual training, and it's a pre-recorded training. It's 90 minutes of videos, very short and sweet videos, by the way. I'm a very no fluff kind of guy. I don't go into all kinds of theory and stuff like that. Each video is maybe like 15 minutes long, so it's bite-sized chunks, so it's very easy to digest. It comes with a guidebook and a script, so if you want, while the person's eyes are closed. You could literally just be there like reading the script. Um, Although I always tell people, I'm like, don't do that. Like take your notes, but I want you to see how easy this actually is. You're even like, even if you make mistakes, it'll work. Um, and yeah, so you get instant access to it. You get access to the community. You could ask me questions inside the community. You could practice with the other members, which is a cool part, because one of the things that a lot of people have said is like, oh, well, I want to experience soul medicine for myself. I'm like, great. So inside the training, we put together a practitioner matchmaker type of thing. So when you're inside, you could just go in the community and be like, hey, I'd love to practice with someone. And you get paired up with one of the other practitioners and you give and receive sessions with each other. So that way you don't have to pay extra for it. You can get testimonials from each other. You get really good feedback. You can build your confidence. So I really made it as complete as possible, including putting in modules showing you how to make money with this and how to get your services out there and how to make that part easy for you. So you're not there figuring out like, but I'm not good on social media and I don't have a big audience. Took care of that part too, because I wanted to really cover every base to just make this very easy to serve more people. So that's that's the training.
Beautiful. And so if anybody has questions about that specifically, you have the link to go to David's page and see if there's anything there that you want to ask him about specifically as well. But it's an amazing, I mean, deceptively simple. I have a saying, I've been saying for many years, soul is simple. Like
Mm,
the mind is so conditioned to look for complexity or think it has to be complex or take a long time or um, it's just if it's a divine solution, then it can be that simple. The
yes,
training can take 2 hours. You don't need all the bells, like the fluff, not bells and whistles, fluff, the fluff around it to make it more complicated than it is. Just like get to the point. Here's what you need to know how to do,
yep,
and it can be that simple. That's to me a hallmark of a divine solution. It can be very simple. And I want to reiterate too what you were saying about people just come to you for one-offs versus like, do they ever come back? Yeah, of course, because it depends on your business and what you're helping people with. And if they have an arc, they have a vision, they're living into a vision, they're wanting to step into a whole new reality for themselves, whatever that might be. In my world, it's fulfilling their soul work and going to their next level of leadership and impact in the world. I mean, that's not a one and done. That's a living into over time. So everybody has to assess for themselves where this could fit. If it's something that resonates, where can it fit into what you're already doing?
absolutely. And what I personally like about it, even in like my mentorship containers, is so I work very fast, and I've gotten to the point where I've evolved beyond the way that I teach soul medicine, so I have a very artistic way of going about it now too. And sometimes my intuition will tell me to do it the formal way. But what I love about knowing how to do this is that if I have a client who's, coming to me for a session because they have a trauma with their father or whatever it is, I don't need to spend the whole session on that. I could help them sometimes within 15, 20 minutes clear it. And then it makes room for the desires they didn't know they wanted to focus on so that we could, in a sense, get two sessions in one. So I like to help people move really quickly. And, like you were saying, like I like simplicity. I myself have a short attention span. And so I don't like to create anything that I wouldn't enjoy myself. If it's not entertaining to listen to, if it doesn't keep my attention, I can't put it out there for people because I'm like, I wouldn't like it. If the younger me wouldn't like it, I can't give it to you. So that's kind of my standards.
Love it. Amazing. And I love that, you can immediately be turning this into income if you want to. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, it's a certification, you do pay for it, and it can provide returns many, many, many times over if that's what you choose.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the questions. Jolene says, do you think some people may be skeptical a session can work that quickly because they feel they have to work harder and longer to heal? It's a story we all have believed at some point as well. They have purpose around their story.
Yeah, many people are skeptical. It's a very common skepticism. And what I find most helps with that is testimonials. It's when people see other people saying, whoa, this happened, and they're not hearing it from you. I like I like proof over promise, right? When you could prove like, hey, look at all these people who are saying this thing, it's going to spark your curiosity. If you're actually looking for help, it'll spark your curiosity enough to ask questions and to explore for yourself. And then if it makes sense for you both on a conscious level and on a level of resonance, you'll go like, oh yeah, cool, let's do it, right? So yeah, there's of course skepticism, which is normal, and the ways around that are just by showing proof and by talking about it in a very grounded and practical way.
Right on. Perfect. And also, to Jolene's point, I mean, I've seen many, many times in my own journey and with other people that we can have a belief that change takes time or change is hard.
Yeah, and I do find that like what's kind of alleviated a lot of that skepticism for people is when I explain to them why most healing is actually temporary. When they understand why it's temporary and they understand that, well, a deep release doesn't rewire the neurology or repattern the subconscious at the root, and that's why this is happening. When they understand it in a way, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Then it lends to more possibility of like, oh, so maybe this does actually work because what you're saying makes sense, and hopefully you're telling the truth. Like so. So yeah, it does help when you demystify why things have been temporary and what makes this different.
Right on. Okay, Brittany is saying, can you offer any more how you would get clear on an emotion under health issues? I primarily work with people with health issues and they can be complex from my experience.
That would be a whole training in and of itself. I don't know that I'd be able to answer that in a simple way because for me it's very intuitive. It's not a process for me, and that's I guess part of why I don't teach it in the training. Um, from I could tell you from my experience, when someone tells me of an issue they're having, my heart just feels the underlying energetic of what's going on. And so that's what lets me know where to go. And so that's the most I could really give, in integrity. And yeah, so hopefully that tells you a little something. But yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I think this was from earlier, Elizabeth saying, I work in somatics, so it's body based, not just mind. And then Janet said, catharsis actually reinforces the wounds. That was when you were talking earlier about sort of big releases. And then Elizabeth says, totally, I don't work in the discharge model, I do rewiring work. So it sounds like we've got
Beautiful.
some people doing great work here. Christelle
Beautiful.
is asking, is there a list of certified practitioners? Which is a great segue to a question I was going to ask you anyway,
Yeah.
which is, for some, the certification is the way they want to go, and that's going to be right for them. Some are like, I want to have a session. What are the options there with certified practitioners or ways that they can actually receive this soul medicine?
Absolutely, yeah. So one, just to tell you all transparently, I'm building out the directory of my certified practitioners because for the longest time, I didn't care about certifications. It made no sense to me. I used to say, I'm like, it's just a piece of paper. I'm like, I train people with pieces of paper. So it's like I was very much in my ego about it. And and then what I learned in more recent times in the last few weeks is just to give new meaning to the idea of certification. And so what I've told all my practitioners is, so I don't have an official certificate made for my practitioners yet, but what I've told them is like, as I'm in that process of creating it, if you go through the certification process itself, which is, doing it with 5 people, getting the soul medicine results and testimonials, following up with them and all that stuff, then I will vouch for you. So for me, that is the purpose of the certification is because, I have a large network and database, and, I prefer to spend my time teaching people how to help others rather than only helping others. And so I say all that to say that I do have some certified practitioners who don't have their certificates yet, so, but they have done their 5 sessions. So the options that you have are, one, I have, like I said, you can get a session with one of my practitioners. Some people prefer to have a session with me, which I always tell people the same thing. You're more than welcome to. I charge a lot of money, and you're better off going with one of my practitioners because you'll get the same results for much less cost. So those are the main options for receiving a session.
Awesome. Any other questions? Any other questions before we wrap up here? And I just want to say I'm, grateful to you. Oh, Dale's got a question here. I'm not at all skeptical, but I sense my resistance. It's about all the hours and hard work I've put in to try and put together my best complicated way to help people. And here's something that makes that unnecessary. It's ego for sure, but I understand why established therapists and practitioners would balk about it. Dale, bless you. What a
Truly
sweetheart. Like that is so
humble.
I know Dale, pure, 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 pure heart, and what a beautiful thing to share from authenticity. Thank you for that. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, really, thank you. It actually warms my heart to hear you say that because I just feel your heart in that expression, and I would actually be very curious to have more of a conversation with you about that because I'm sure if you're feeling that, there's others who are going to be feeling the same way, and that's not something that I've come across yet in terms of that kind of resistance, or at least not, it hasn't been vocalized to me. So one, just thank you for expressing it, and two, I would totally be down to continue to have a conversation around that. Like even if you wanted to shoot me a DM, I would love to hear you out because I think that's really important what you're speaking to.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think you're speaking on behalf of a lot of people there, Dale. So thank you. Um, Anybody else? Anybody else? And when you say shoot you a DM, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you.
Yes, my Instagram is at David Lionism. Lion like the animal, ism like Buddhism.
David, I'm going to put it here at David Lionism. I'll put it in the chat.
Yes.
And Elizabeth is saying, I also relate in response to Dale's comment. So there's another one, right? They're
Yeah.
amazing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I would love to know like if you could share. I don't even mind if you want to come, speak with your voice or if you want to chat, but I would love to hear like why. Like why like I understand the resistance in terms of, you put so much time into these complicated techniques and whatnot. My curiosity is what makes it feel like resistance as opposed to inspiring of like, oh, there's something more simple that might even work better. I would love to better understand.
Dale, you're welcome to hop on if you want to unmute, or if you're comfortable with that, or if you want to say a bit more
Um,
in the chat.
yeah, thank you. My internet's a bit unstable right now, so if I start freezing up, just wave at me and I'll stop. Um, by the resistance, um, I guess it's similar to I use tuning forks to help people, release stress um, and a friend of mine uses a machine for that. I'll just, I don't know, some kind of feedback kind of thing. And she doesn't need all of that, um, you know, work that I do
Mm.
because all she needs to do is get a frequency from a feedback thing. And yeah, that's what it is. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's simple, but what I do is try to make it so complicated. And I don't, I don't want to keep that kind of resistance for something that could really help me cut through a lot of static.
Yeah, and I absolutely love your heart. So thank you for sharing that. And
Thank you.
yeah, and two, my honest thoughts are you don't need to replace the tuning forks. It's not about getting rid of one thing for something else. It leaves room.
Yeah.
You could complement the two of them. So if whether you're doing a breathwork facilitator or you're doing tuning forks or Reiki healing, you could use the soul medicine and then enhance it with
Mm,
what you already know and love, such as tuning forks, and give them that little extra icing on the cake.
yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's more of a this and that scenario.
Absolutely. Exactly. I hear you and I believe you. I just, just have to work through some of, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is there anything else that
work
you
some of
want
the
to talk?
ego.
Was there anything else you might want to talk through?
I don't think so. I think I'm good to just take all this great information and let it settle.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, if you do
Mm.
change your mind, you have
Yeah.
my Instagram. Feel free to DM me. I would love to hear from you.
Amazing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dale. And I want to comment too, just like the times we live in. Like we are living in a shift in consciousness at a time when consciousness is shifting such that we're closing the laborious way of doing things according to the separated mind.
Yeah.
The world that we created, that really it reflects separation consciousness. And we did it for a purpose. There's nothing wrong with it. It is dying right now. And we have an acceleration in the direction of possibilities, potentials, divine solutions streaming in through us. And for those of us who are on this kind of a path, we're making ourselves greater and greater open vessels, more and more open vessels for divine solutions to come through. So it's like, so I sort of hear that in David's story, right? Like you were reading this book and this, classic Love One book, and you're like, that's not, I'm interested in that. Like you were like, but like boom, lightning hit and like
Yeah.
something was able to come through. But look, it took like more than a decade for it to actually now make its way out into the world, such you want to get this into the hands of as many people as possible. Like consciousness has changed,
Yes.
so easier solutions, faster solutions, divine solutions. The soul doesn't labor.
Yes.
So it kind of fits the time that we're in. It fits the consciousness expansion. It fits the acceleration. It fits that we've all been on this journey for a long time and we're tired. It's been a long journey. We're tired, and it gets to be easier, but it's up to us to let go of clinging to what we're used to,
Yes.
which is working harder than we need to. And I love your response to Dale. It's not about giving up what's working. It's complementing with things that resonate. If it resonates for you, great. You take the best of what you're already doing and add to it.
Totally, and what I was literally just imagining as I was sitting with what Dale was sharing, I'm like, man, it would be so amazing. Like when I imagine going through a soul medicine session or a client going through a soul medicine session, at the end, you're feeling liberated and you just want to bathe in that feeling. And I imagine if at the end, if then you had tuning forks going, that would just be the ultimate icing on the cake of like, oh, I could stay here forever. I like it just to me, it sounds like the perfect combo.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Dale, for sparking that whole. You see, like everybody's just perfect contributor to this magic that we call life. All right, and let me make sure I'm not missing anything. I think I'm at Brittany. Brittany says, I'm trying to decide how applicable this would be from your reply around needing additional training on finding true root cause emotion.
Let me clarify on that. The you would need you might need additional training on finding true root cause emotion if you're working with physical diseases. If you're purely working with emotional traumas, everything is in the training that I'm giving you. That's so hopefully that clears things up. And again, it's very so easy that a complete beginner can do it. I'm just at this point still careful around the whole physical disease arena because I don't know what the liability. I don't know. So I'm still working with that one.
Fair enough. Yeah, thank you for Brittany for the question so that David can clarify that. Yeah, and I appreciate your caution,
Yeah.
moving through this with responsibility. Brenda, when I search for a practitioner, I see many soul medicine practitioners. How do I know which have trained with you? Maybe they're just
I
using the term.
Yeah, I actually I have no idea. I want to know as well. Um, I guess that just further enunciates the point of getting the certifications, for them. So I don't know if other people are using the word soul medicine. I'm sure I'm not the first person or only person to come up with that terminology. Um, yeah, I mean, you could ask me is my simple response. And I'd love to see like if you do actually know other people, I would love to see if you could like send me screenshots. I'm just curious. But yeah, you could always ask me and what you just gave me is further inspiration towards the certification process. So thank you.
Nice. Love it. Okay. Belinda, I am wondering, you have shared the success of some people who have worked with you as far as learning the process and practicing on their own clients with great success. Have you had the experience of someone learning the soul medicine from you and sharing that they didn't feel like they could successfully use it?
Great question. No. So the biggest question that's come up in with my practitioners is um, is in identifying the core feeling. Some people have get in their head about it and and while they're going through the process, they're like, I wasn't sure if it was the core feeling or not. Can you help me identify it better? And so I created an extra training module to make it even more simple. But even in those cases, they still get the results with their clients. They just have some doubt on their end because they weren't quite sure while they were doing it, like if they were doing it perfectly. But to this day, and very honestly speaking, I have never had any practitioner come to me and say, "Hey, it didn't work. What do I do?" That hasn't happened, and God willing, it doesn't happen.
It's pretty amazing
Can I
to be
just
able
ask
to
one more
say.
question to
Yeah.
follow that up with?
Yeah.
I see that on your website you have like a channeling option to learn channeling to, connect closer. And then you have the soul medicine. Is the channeling included in the soul medicine? So like if we're to participate in the $2,000 soul medicine,
Yeah.
the specific channeling comes with it. So we wouldn't have to do both.
So yes and no. So what I actually give, um, I'm wondering what page you're looking at, but inside the soul medicine training itself, in the community, I give what I call the white belt training for channeling for free. So, I just look at it like white belt to black belt. And so I give the white belt training for free so you could learn the foundations and the basics. And so that by the end of it, you'll be able to channel guidance from spirit guides and wisdom for your clients and for yourself. And then if you want to go deeper and you want to master your energetic gifts and be able to do cooler things, let's say, such as go into trance states and train with your guides and have them teach you lessons in the form of a game or pick up on people's thoughts without them saying anything, then I have a higher level training that you could choose to invest in. And that takes you from white belt to black belt.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. My pleasure. Oh, Lisa, you're muted.
Sorry, I didn't want the screen to keep flipping to me if I make a little noise. Thank you. Janet was responding to Dale. Over time, I'm way more interested in shorter paths to healing since I know, including through personal experience, that spontaneous healing and remission are real. So I would just feel that what I've already learned, I have a lot of training, would support the shorter, faster approach. So just wanted to be
Beautiful.
sure to capture that on the recording because I won't see what's written here.
Beautiful.
Helen McMillan, amazing. Thank you for being here. Did I hear you correctly that you are in the process of organizing certification for your trained practitioners? Any idea when that will be available on a practical level? Many people still have the mindset that something is not valid and serious if you don't at least provide a certificate to prove to others that you completed the training.
Yeah, I'm looking to have it like the actual certificates ready in the new year. And again, thank you for added inspiration on that. And so yeah, in the new year, I'm hoping to have it, I would say by like January, February at the latest. And in the meantime, like I said, if you do go through the certification process, I will vouch for you and I will send clients to you and I will, because that's my whole goal. I just want to build a directory to serve all the people who often come to me for help and just be able to be like, go to one of my practitioners.
Awesome. Thank you. Janet says, what about past life trauma?
I love this question. Oh, I love it. Okay. So, what I've discovered is that even past life trauma has a catalyst in this now incarnation. Because if you think about it, the only time that exists is now. There isn't really a past life, there are parallel lives, right? And so you can use this process to go into a past life. I've done this before, especially in the early days. But even you becoming aware of a past life trauma is because there was something that happened in this now life that activated a vibrational frequency inside of you that then connected you to that past life where that wound originated from or is in resonance with. And so even if there's a past life trauma, you will be able to find the root cause in this life. Actually, that's actually what happened when I told you earlier that I did soul medicine with this girl at the coffee shop the other day. Originally, what she was telling me was about she's carrying all this ancestral trauma from her ancestors. And the story she was giving me was about her ancestors. But through a little bit of questioning, I basically said the same thing to her. I was able to find the moment when she was 8 years old where that vibration, that wound got activated. And then because it was activated, that's why she became aware of that trauma in past lives and et cetera, et cetera. So you can always find the moment of inception in the present incarnation if you look for it. And it's actually very easy. You just have to bring someone's mind to the possibility or to the truth that the only time that exists is now. And so it must have been created in the now in some way, shape, or form. And so once you do that, you can find it.
I'll second that. And I remember reading that in another classic work, The Nature of Personal Reality, a Seth book, one of the Seth channeled books. And
Yes.
I remember Seth talking about that very, very clearly. And it actually really affected my interest or lack of interest in other lives because I knew everything could be accessed here.
Absolutely.
It didn't need to go anywhere else. So, which doesn't matter. You can do it either way, any way you resonate with. But I was like, oh, it's all here. It's all here right now. Don't need to go
Yeah.
anywhere else.
Yeah, and for the record, I think exploring past lives could be very fun and fruitful, and you could,
100%.
and healing. Sometimes, the one time that I'm remembering where, and this is in the early days, like 13 years ago, where I brought, I think it was my ex-girlfriend through the process or a similar process. I don't remember exactly. Um, but I only brought her to a past life because she had so much resistance to acknowledging it in this life. So it helped her to see it from an outside perspective as past life in order to heal what was in the now. So it was just a permission slip for her to heal, but it wasn't necessary to do things that way.
Right on. Okay, Elizabeth. David, you mentioned the only two root fears are of falling or something else. I can't remember what you said.
Loud noises.
Loud noises. How did you
Sudden
come?
loud noises.
Yes, I've heard that as well.
Yep.
She's asking, how did you come to that? I see other things arise at the root in the birth experience, for example, such as getting stuck in the birth canal, or of course, carrying lineage trauma or past life trauma forward into birth.
Same kind of thing. I've learned that through my hypnosis and NLP studies, where they study the brain very extensively. So yeah, that's where I learned it. In terms of traumas being carried onto birth, I don't know, is my honest answer. Yeah, I don't know.
I've heard the same thing, and I want to say, and this is not scientific, so take it or leave it, but what just pops in my mind is that actually the physical baby has two like human fears, falling and loud noises. It's not about the soul and the soul's like it's the physical human baby has those two core fears. That's how I heard it when I heard
Right.
it. So again, it's something that would be easily researched because I have heard that too, and not from David.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd be curious to research it further. I'm gonna have a talk with ChatGPT later.
Yeah, right on. Amazing. These are such great questions. So thanks everybody for bringing up these great, great, great questions. Carolyn, can you use soul medicine for animals?
No.
No. Okay, easy. Divan or Divan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name closely at least. Thank you for all you've shared. I had some wounding around being in groups where some rewiring, changing patterns work was done, but there was transference and projecting, which somatic therapy helped see and integrate. I was triggered when you mentioned bypassing layers. Can you speak to the issue of spiritual bypassing and how your work relates to it?
Yes, thank you. So when I say bypassing layers, I don't mean imagine imagine a tree or imagine a flower. And when someone comes to you with a problem or a trauma of some sort, it's usually in full-blown blossom. And what some practitioners do is they'll work on the petals. Other practitioners will work on the stems or the leaves. What soul medicine does is it goes to the root. So it's not bypass in the sense of not acknowledge or ignore. It's just we go to the origin point. And in fact, what happens during the process is sometimes during the process of soul medicine, you might let's say, start off at something that happened to you last week. And as you go through the process, you remember some other memory from 5 years ago, but it's not quite the root. It's still important. And then eventually we get to the root. Once we do all the soul medicine stuff at the root, I actually have you go through every memory that you came across so you can see for yourself how it plays out differently for you now and how you're literally on a different timeline. So it actually doesn't bypass it in the negative sense. It just, it's just more, um, I guess, efficient with the way that we're working, and it acknowledges it on the way up. Yeah. So, and I'll just further say like something, just my own perspective on spiritual bypassing, kind of separate from this, is that if you really think about it, because I know it's a whole big thing of people being like, oh, you're spiritual bypassing. Truthfully speaking, it's actually not possible to spiritually bypass, because at some point, whatever thing you're ignoring is going to come up, right? It's whether it's in this lifetime or another one, whether it's this year or another year. It's so in that, from that regard, if you think about it, it's actually not possible to spiritually bypass. You could just choose to temporarily compartmentalize yourself. So just to, yeah, speak into that.
Thanks for that. Yeah. Elizabeth was thanking Devon for asking that. That's exactly why I take my time with clients and wait for their true inner readiness. That's why I'm so fascinated and also skeptical about this.
Amazing.
Fair enough, you know, like
Yeah.
take what resonates, leave the rest. And you know, we really appreciate these great questions and points of view.
Yeah.
So, and
And I
Helen,
will say,
oh, go ahead.
oh, I just want to say you do, I do also offer, you have a 30-day happiness guarantee. So should you choose to go into the training and you're like, this is bullshit, you know, you could just tell me and I'm happy to give a full refund, because I don't want you to keep something you're not happy with. This is purely to serve the mission that I spoke of raising the standard here. So just to, yeah, just to share that.
I love that. Yeah, that's standing behind your what you're saying.
Yeah.
Can't stand behind it more than that. Like, doesn't work. You don't need to keep it.
Yeah.
You're standing behind it. So, Helen, just to close the loop, Helen is offering the two fears you speak of are actually neurological reflexes that babies are born with.
Got it.
It's after birth. It's neurological reflexes babies are born with after birth: fear of falling and fear of loud noises. So, just,
Amazing. Thank you.
yeah, thank you,
Thank
Helen. Janet saying, Seth, life-changing material for me. I read all the books decades ago. Me too. Janet, claustrophobia is also a birth trauma. Yeah, these are different. Birth traumas are different from what we were talking about in terms of fears, these neurological reflexes that Helen's clarified. Jolene, curious if phobias are included in the belief around having only two fears. Would love to shift my program around claustrophobia. I think these neurological reflex fears are different than
Yep.
these other kinds of fears.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah. Devon, thank you, David, and correct pronunciation. Lisa, thank you. Okay, amazing. And Belinda saying that's fair. Thank you. All right, so that's the end of our questions. Any other questions? Here's your last chance, and I want to say thank you, David, for just bringing your heart and your soul, your passion for this, your dedication to these much larger missions, standing behind you, that you're standing on and bringing this to everybody, and standing behind it with lots of rigorous testing and sharing with people who have rigorously tested it in their own ways. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
Yeah,
It does
absolutely. No,
raise the
thank you.
standard for all of us and puts something different into our holographic field. So appreciate that. Dale is saying, this reminds me of theta healing, heals everything that is a product of the core issue, not bypassing them, and also sounds like Jesus healing. Thank you both for this miraculous news. Yeah, Dale, that's beautiful. Right on. Any final words, David? Anything you want to share before we close out? And I'll put the link one more time.
Yeah, just thank you for your attention and for your skepticisms and your questions. And I just want to emphasize that this is a simple method. There's something about the simplicity of it that I find so magical, where aside from it taking a short period of time to learn, we've talked a lot about the healing aspects. We didn't touch too much on like what happens after that healing takes place, because it's like the way I imagine it is if you have like a dark color in your body that just keeps manifesting layers and triggers, and you keep coping with it, and every now and then you soften it to a lighter color, but then it gets stronger again. When you can permanently alleviate that and you can make that grumpy caterpillar turn into a butterfly, and now you've butterflied, the way that butterfly manifests in your reality as opportunities, as creativity, as passion, that's the part that I find most magical, way more than the healing, is the things people will say happen in the reality afterwards that they weren't expecting, that they weren't focusing on. So for me, it's I just also want to highlight that part because there is a certain magic to that. And as a lover of magic, that's a big part of where my attention goes. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. And again, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for saying yes to this and being a part of this journey. And if later on, if you happen to have any questions come up that you forgot to ask or that came up later, shoot me a DM. I'm more than happy to talk things out with you. I would love to hear your questions. And I hope to see some of you inside Soul Medicine.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So grateful to all of you for being here. As David said, of course, your presence, your great questions, even the skepticism, right? Like welcoming it all makes us all better. And trust your knowing, trust your resonance. If it feels like it could serve you, serve the people that you serve, wonderful. Then dive in. You have a 30-day guarantee. So I don't know, it doesn't get better than that. If it feels resonant, then it's remove the risk. So, and if not, bless you on your journey. And thank you for the great work that you do in your way. So lots of love to everybody. Have a fantastic weekend. And, we're all in this together, as the saying goes. We are on a journey. So thank you all. Thank you all for your presence. And
thank you guys.
We'll see
Love
you
you
soon.
guys.
Love you. Bye for now.